Hello, in this video we're going to do one of the creepier decorations that we would do out of the mesh, and that is the spider. Everyone is slightly afraid of spiders and make them jump, so in this case we're going to do our own little critter. They're perfect for table decorations, for doing on the large outdoor pumpkin that we'll show you in another video of how to make. Or hanging, or even on a door. You just have to be aware of the legs and how stiff that you need to make them depending upon the use that you want to do. Now, supplies, what we start with is one work wreath. In this case, I've chosen a metallic copper. You can choose whatever color you want. Mostly, this is not going to show in the end product, but you'll see a little later why I've chosen the copper. You'll need one roll of black mesh, and you'll need at least a fairly decent length of the 10-inch orange mesh. Your black is the 21-inch. And then you will need 2 rolls, in this case, of what I've used, which is a black wired Tensil. Now, it took so much of this because, of course, spiders have 8 legs, and I doubled the Tensil to make it a bit stiffer. If you were going to do a hanging project or something, you might even want to triple it, so you might need a little more. So it just depends on what you choose to use on the legs. So now let's get started. The process works the same as the pumpkin that we do or the sunflower center that we do, in the fact that the centerpieces, for the most part, we're not going to use. So just shape out your outside ring where it's easy to grip. Take your mesh, gather up the end, and start backwards so that this end is tucked underneath, and simply tie on. Now, again, you're doing a circle form, so on your first 2 ties that you make, here and here, you want to keep that pulled down a little tighter, because of course as you tie across from one side to the other, you got a nice arched or domed effect. And so you want to maintain that by doing your sides in tight, otherwise it just comes out looking a little lumpy on one side. So just continue wrapping back and forth. If you feel you need a little more opacity or just more padding, then feel free to go back and forth again and double the usage of your ties. Occasionally, you will have an empty space between ties, which I'll show you here in just one second. You'll see how this empty space is right here. All you have to do is do a figure 8 form with the mesh, and let the curve of the mesh itself and its natural resistance fill that in for you. And as you cross over, it just gives you extra padding in the center. And continue working your way across. And of course, because we are using the plastic mesh, it has more transparency, and so giving a few extra layers there helps give that spider the solid tone that you would really need. If you were using a burlap ribbon, that is not so transparent, and so it might not take as much to do, but of course you really don't see much black burlap out there to get your spider going. And we're almost to the end here. Okay, and on your last tie, pull that down a bit tighter. Now, because we're doing a spider, we want the lines of our mesh to go crossways. This makes the spider appear wider, whereas if we were doing the pumpkin, as you see in the pumpkin wreath, we would want the lines to go up and down to follow the ridges of the pumpkin itself. So here is your body with your lines going across. Now we're going to take the mesh one more time and we're going to create a head. And let's see, we're going to decide where the best top and bottom is. This one's a little bit flatter, so that's where I'm going to choose to put my head. So I'll move it here. Now I'm going to pinch this in. And again, we want that raw edge to be on the inside. So I'm going to tie this off. And that's going to give me a little extra padding. And then I'm going to pull this across over it. So my raw edge is on the inside. And then this is where you kind of have to just judge with what you're doing and maybe pull here and there on your mesh. I'm just going over to this next set of ties, but I have to determine exactly how big I want my head to be. And so I think that's about right for this one. And then tie it off. So now I've got a nice little puffy head going. I'm going to trim my mesh and tuck the raw ends under on this side. And that's going to add a little bit more padding in that head. Okay, and then I can tuck the gold or the copper away. Now at this point, I'm going to clip this back some and just take some ends. See, they're just a couple inches long. And I'm going to tuck the rest in underneath here where you want to see. And I'm going to use those ends in just a minute. Okay, the rest I can simply tuck back underneath the wreath and bend over the frame. So those stay kind of out of sight, out of mind. Just like so. Now then, whoops, the raw edge popped out of the head. Okay. The next step, we're going to put the design on the back of the spider. A red widow, or black widow, I mean, red widow. Black widow, of course, has the distinct marking, and that's generally what people think of when they think of a Halloween type of spider, unless you're going for a tarantula. So, I want you to feel down in here and find the ties from that center ring. And it may take a little hunting to get through the edge to find them, but you just need a couple of those and sort of pull them through here so you can find them. Okay, now we're going to tie an end down inside there to that. And tuck that end on down in below the black mesh. So that's out of sight. And bring it across, because we're going to make an X with this colored mesh. Now of course if you decided to, you could do a black spider only, but the addition of this color just makes it pop a little more and gives it a little more recognition of the shape of the spider than if you just left the solid black. At least to me anyway. Okay, so we've got that side done. I'm going to go ahead and tuck that end under because we won't need it. Pull this one out. Now we're going to do the same thing in this direction. Gather up the end and to this set of ties. Twist that tightly, tuck it inside the body, and tuck that stem back down. And come across to complete our X. And then we'll tie off this backside. Clip off the orange. Tuck the ends under. Tuck the end of your ties under. Spread the black mesh back up around it so that everything is back smooth. And now we have our body and head complete. Now, legs. What you do to start off with the leg, I've already got mine made to help speed things up here, but you want to come out from the base and decide just about how high up you want the leg to go and come down, and that way you've got measured out the full length of your leg. And then in this instance, as I said, I doubled mine so that I had a stronger leg, and then I just started twisting until I got them wound together to make it much tighter and stronger. So I've got my legs made and we're ready to attach. Now, spiders have 8 legs, and if you don't put 8 legs on there, then somebody is going to come along and say that's not a real spider because it doesn't have 8 legs. So go ahead and do the full 8 legs. It's a little mindless winding this tight, but it really does look good in the end. Now, just wherever you want that knee joint to be, bend it over, and then bend you a foot joint around, maybe twist the ends in to make sure there's no sharp point from your tinsel, and your first leg is done. And then continue on. Where your ties are along the edges of the ring is a good way to space things out so that you know exactly how much space to give your legs, but you just want them sort of equidistant down the sides, starting near the back of the head, and go from there. Okay, I make a crimp where I want the knee to be. Curl that foot up a little bit. Now you see how this is still wobbly. It works great for sitting on the table, but like I said, you might want to triple it up if you're intending on hanging it or using it on a wall so that the legs will have even more stiffness to them and stay in place just a bit better. Now then, one last thing before we truly set him up. He needs some eyes. So you're just going to take some short lengths, and I've got some left from some previous projects. Just take a couple of fingers and wrap around several times until you get a nice ring going. You can twist the end around to help hold it. And there you've got an eyeball ring. Now all you've got to do, if you've got a hot glue gun, you can do a little bit of glue on the back. If you've got the glue pan like I do, just barely touch that surface to get some glue going and locate your eyes. And of course, insects, the eyes are located a little more to the side, but you can play around with that first before you decide to glue, sort of position. Now, remember these little pieces that I cut off earlier? I'm just going to take those and also kind of roll them around just to make a little puff. And that little bit of copper, if I just touch the edges with my glue and stick inside that opening, then all of a sudden I've got pupils that really make my eyes stand out. So I do that, and now my spider is complete, and all I've got to do is decide where I want to sit him. and position the legs the way I want them, either on here or, as you can see on the pumpkin, where I've got him where it looks like he's crawling over. You just sit those legs up and you're good to go. Now you can get all of the products that you've seen here today at Trees and Trends. Feel free to play around with the colors, with the textures. Just think sort of outside of the box as to what else you might want to use in terms of legs, what other color combinations you might want to do. Just fun things that will work for your house, your kids, your parties, and everyone will love and enjoy. Thank you very much.